So let me ask you a question. Do you ever find yourself thinking a lot, but nothing, but about nothing in specific, or what you're thinking about is not useful to you? It's just kind of there in the background, some noise, some things pulling you here and there, and your mind is active, but it's not active doing something that you would want it to do. I'll tell you why. And that's completely normal. And I'll tell you why this is happening and how to fix it. The reason why it's happening is because of the exposure to the sheer amount of data and information and stimuli that we're exposed to on a regular basis, from city noises, people that we speak to, the things that we watch, the social media that we engage with, the work that we do, the future that we think about, the past that won't let us go, that won't let go of us, and the present, the discomfort or the pleasure of the present moment. So all of these things combined, they're all working in confluence to basically create this state internally. And again, confluence has a positive connotation, but it's creating this state internally where your mind is active, but it's not necessarily serving you the way you would like it to serve you. Let's put it that way. Now, of course, there are moments that you experience, that I experience, that everybody experiences, that seem to be optimal, that we're in the zone, we're in a flow state, we're in a joyous state, we're in a fulfilled state. Now, the question is, when we're in that mode, how do we more reliably get ourselves back to that state? And you think I'm going to talk about habits. Not in this video. Today, I'm going to talk about specifically this phrase. I'm going to describe and break down this phrase. If you can focus your mind, you can achieve anything you want. If you can use your mind properly in the right way, almost anything is possible. And the reason I say almost anything is because you can't defy the laws of physics, right? No matter how hard you focus your mind, if you jump off a building without the aid of technology, you're likely going to fall to your death. So there are 3 steps to being able to focus your mind so you can achieve what you want. Number 1, you must choose a thought. Choose a thought. Remember that. Number 2, I'm going to break everything down. Number 2, you have to create a structure around how you will engage with that thought. So you choose what you want to think about. You create a structure in association with how specifically you're going to engage with it. And number 3, you're going to find the purpose of that engagement and how it will serve and develop you. So essentially, you pick the thing, you create a structure, a process around the thing, and then you delineate the end state or the purpose of engaging with that process. So the reason this specific sequence is important is because you will notice that you have random thought. You may not be thinking, but you have thoughts the whole day. Thinking itself is a very complex process. It typically involves some form of dialogue and some form of elaborate communication, either internally or externally, that is coherent and that creates a certain perceptual frame around the subject of that thought. So which means that if you're just having chatter in your head, you're not thinking about stuff. People say, "Oh, what are you thinking about?" And you're like, "Oh, that time." Well, that's kind of an image. Like, you are thinking about it, but true thinking, it needs to be very intentional, because that type of thinking will actually permeate into your day-to-day life on a regular basis, however you choose to think, or however your mind naturally operates. So what you want to do is you want to take it away from the default mode network, where these things are just constantly arising, you're constantly thinking about things, and put yourself in a state of awareness, so that way you can decipher specifically what are all of the different content, the different types of content, different data that's essentially being processed by your mind. So you want to be aware of what's going on. So number 1, choose a thought. Actively scan your mind. This is how you choose: for a priority, a goal, or a problem that you need to solve. So typically those 3 things are going to be the most important. You want to find out what is a priority you need to attend to, what is a goal that you want to achieve, or what is a problem that you need to solve. And you have to be able to determine that by thinking about this, it's going to help because it's going to lead to greater clarity and it's going to lead to an action that will help in the resolution or accomplishment of that task. So it should be something that through this process will generate progress, like I mentioned. So what I just said, progress. So you're actually getting things done. There's forward movement. Clarity. So you're clear about what that goal is, your movement towards it, the success and the failures. You're more clear about the solutions that you're generating. You're more clear about the problem that you're specifying, and peace, which means that you're basically clearing away the chaos and you're creating more order, and that will generate peace. So you're going to feel that sense of like equanimity or peace by doing this process. So that's the choosing of the thought. Number two, create a structure around how you will engage with it. So you must be the witness of that creation. You watch it unfold as you create it. So let me break that down. So the reason that's important is because if you don't do that, if you put yourself in first person mode, then what's going to happen is you're going to run it as if it's kind of like an adventure in your mind, and you're going to start exploring different pathways and different rabbit holes, and you may get caught up in that thought. So what you would like to do instead is, instead of putting it in first person mode, it's kind of like the difference between seeing your perspective from where you're sitting and seeing the perspective from the point of view above. Actually, the analogy that I gave specifically with this point is when you're trying to understand how a building is being constructed. So right now I'm in a condo downtown Toronto by Lakeshore. Now there's another one being built next to me. And for me to really understand how this structure was created is actually to look at the construction workers, at the crane operator, at all of the parts kind of being put together, because then I can really see from a bird's eye view how everything fits into everything else. But if I'm that singular construction worker working on his task, it's not that that task is not important, but remember, that task is in the context of that larger structure. So if that larger structure is not correct, right? So if it's not the right structure, then he could be working as hard as he wants on that specific task, but it's not going to be in service to that structure, to the larger structure, which would be in this case the building, because the building is improperly designed or engineered. So you have to make sure that what you're designing, the structure, what you're engineering, is actually solid, it's sound, before you start to work on the details. So remember, this is where you're constructing the structure, you're creating the structure, you're not working on the little details. So that's why you have to basically be the witness. You watch it unfold as you create it. It's almost like you're I don't know, those games that people play where you're like you create things, right? You put these little bricks in place. That's essentially what you're doing. So the structure should serve to guide you regarding how you are processing it. So how you are processing the thought. So I can make that correction, processing the thought. So the structure should serve to guide you regarding how you are processing the thought. This is exactly what I just mentioned, which means that how you're processing the thought is going to be determined by the structure that you're building around it. Because remember, the you and the process, you're basically one. It's the same thing, effectively, right? Who you are and who you're becoming is the process. I don't want to get too philosophical. I'll break that down in a future video. But remember that the structure that you're creating will guide the way you actually process that thought and the type of outcome that you would generate. So create a structure around how you will engage with it. So you have to be clear about specifically what you want to accomplish. What is the proper process in association with that thought, given what you picked, whether it's the priority, the goal, or the problem that you're solving. So you want to create a proper format, kind of like the scientific method, right? You want to create a schema, like a rubric around a rubric about how you're going to address that problem in sequence, right? So it's kind of like a sequence of things. And then you find the purpose of that engagement and how it will serve and develop you. So in the case of the condo, the purpose is to house people, right? That's the purpose. Now, again, I don't want to get into like all of the other different sub purposes and money and whatever, but it's really to house people. That's the purpose, right? So you create the thing, you create a structure around the thing, and then you find a purpose of that thing. Now you might think to yourself, well, shouldn't I find the purpose first? Like that would make more sense. But here's the thing is the purpose is in association with the starting point. So that's why you have to kind of you're kind of simultaneously in a sense picking something and then determining based off what you pick that it is purposeful, that it is like there is some kind of purpose behind it. So typically steps 1 and 3 might happen kind of simultaneously there. But as far as like expanding and elaborating on the purpose, that should happen in stage 3. But again, you still should have that purpose in mind when you select the thought. So you find the purpose of that engagement in how it will serve and develop you. So you really have to like flesh that out and elaborate it as far as, okay, well, what I'm doing right now, it will serve me in XYZ fashion. So choose thoughts that are aimed in a direction that you want to take. Determine what the tangible result will be in helping you organize and improve your life. So that's basically what you're trying to do here. Because when you organize it and you improve your life, then by implication, by extension, what you're doing is you're improving everybody else's life because you're engaging with other people, whether it's you, whether it's your business, whether it's you talking to people on the phone, talking to people on Zoom, on video, having meetings with people, running your organization, volunteering, anything that you do, it starts from you. So that's why you have to really be able to determine what is the tangible result in helping you organize. So it's like you're accomplishing this so that. It's kind of like the so that question, right? I'm doing this so that, and then X. And then whatever the so that is, it should be a reflection of the relevant factors, relevant variables in how you organize yourself and how that character, effectively like who you're becoming, is interacting with the world in front of you, and how that will kind of change into the next thing. You don't have to specify what that next thing is, but you're kind of determining that that is the important thing that you should get done. That should get done. So again, to focus your mind so you can achieve anything you want. And again, now thoughts are, this is like a sequence of steps and many sequences of different steps. But this is really the kind of like the overarching framework as far as thinking, right? This is the most important thing. And to get to that point, you can watch previous videos that I've recorded around removing distractions, meditations, and things of that nature. Now, here's the one caveat here that I will mention. This is the note that I made. Note, whenever you have a negative or useless thought or fantasy, be careful not to infuse and invest energy into it. Stay with your body in the present. And perhaps you can use that energy in the moment to do something useful or good. So you might find yourself kind of like you're energized about something, like you're pissed off, and now you're creating a narrative in your head. You're arguing with some imaginary person in your mind. So you got to pull away and either let that go and kind of switch tracks, and or take that energy with you and use it towards something good. Maybe I'll go for a run. Maybe I'll go to the gym. Maybe I'll get some work done. It's motivating you to get work done. Or maybe it's a sign for you to take a step back and to calm yourself down. So maybe it's not a signal to engage, but it's a signal to disengage for a second. Now, here's the important reason why I'm stating all this. Giving your energy to these thoughts and fantasies will drain you. So don't get sucked into that story, because what's happening is you're generating a fantasy, it's not useful, or it's negative in worst case scenario. Now you have energy built up. So you're kind of frustrated by your own mind. Your own mind is creating frustration and anxiety and anger, as an example. Now what's happening is you're actually giving that energy to the fantasy. And now after that, you're drained. That's, I think, a lot of the reasons why people will engage in excessive use of social media or watching TV shows, movies, because their mind is kind of like running and firing all day firing. And then when they have the moments where like they're calm, it's really just that they're exhausted. So they just want something to fill that space. And then you'll realize that the more you become present, the less stimuli you need to be stimulated. So the less inputs, the fewer, you're going to need fewer inputs to feel the same amount of stimulation that you felt with many inputs. So you're sensitizing yourself. So remember, you have to sensitize yourself to the thoughts, and you're going to start to become more and more aware of more useful thoughts. So pick the thought, you create a structure around it, find the purpose, and then we could talk about developing a plan and how to achieve that. But hope that was helpful for you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.